This conference will now be recorded.
So today we will try to understand what is Git and GitHub. So Git and GitHub. So we'll understand what is Git and GitHub, and where we use, and what is our role, and how much we need to understand in Git and GitHub. So Git is a tool. Git is a tool which we use on the local machine, and GitHub is a central repository. I will explain about it soon, but try to understand. There will be only one tool called Git, but the central repository are of different types. That means we can use GitHub. Yesterday, last session, I told you we can use GitHub, we can use GitLab, we can use Bitbucket, or many more are there actually. Many more central repositories tools are available, but out of them, most of the companies use GitHub and Bitbucket. Even most of the companies use GitLab, but anything is fine. If you know how to use GitHub, then you can easily work on Bitbucket and GitLab as well. Okay, so Git is a tool using which we can able to connect to our GitHub. You can think like GitHub is a central repository and Git as a local repository. That way you can think of. So let's try to understand. So what is Git? Git is a repository tool or a version control tool. So repository tool, you know, right? It stores the developer written code. It will store, and also it also called as version control tool. That means which developer has did those changes, on what day he has did that changes. Okay, so every detail can be fetched, even though uh, uh, even though it is done 1 year back or 2 years back, no problem. Everything will be managed in the version control tool. So versioning we already know in Amazon. In Amazon cloud provider, we have used one service called S3, if you remember. In that also we having versioning concept, right? In that, when we enable the versioning, then whenever you upload same file again and again, so automatically a version ID was created over there, right? So you know that. Similarly, Git also manages the similar way. So you can work on the same file again and again, but for every file, whenever you modify the file again and again, for every change it will create a ID for that file. So that way it will manage, and whenever you want specific version file, you can fetch it, you can get it. Git is used for source code management. Okay, it will manage your source code. We will see this practically today. Git is used for source code management. It is a free open source first control system used to handle small to very large projects efficiently. So Git is a tool. It is free. It's a free, and it's open source. That means anybody can any developer can contribute. He can add the code. He can enhance the Git application. He can, if he Git having any bug issues, then any developer in the world can contribute. He can fix it, and he can upload his changes. So somebody will verify the changes and approve it. Once approved, then that change can be added to the Git main source code. So Git is used to track the changes in source code, enabling multiple developers to work together. So as we discussed in our one of our demo, multiple developers in a sprint, in agile development, multiple teams will be there working for the same project. But each team will be working for different feature, right? When all of the developers were completed their project in the sprint in 10 days or 15 days, that code has to be moved to the it has to be merged, right? That in these 15 days itself, the code has to be moved to various environments like development environment, SIT environment. In development environment, whatever the code they did, that will be verified by the each developer, because when they write the code on their local machine, the code will work perfectly. But when they move the code to the development server, when all the developers move their code to development server, that is nothing but your GitHub. So GitHub is a central repository. When you move your code to there, then the code will be built actually. The build that is built using Jenkins actually. That is the reason I'm not going in depth now, because we don't know Jenkins now. So that is the reason, just overview I'm giving. The code will be merged together, and if any issues come up, then the developers will fix it. So enable this way multiple developers work together. So complete the features in that sprint. So a Git repository tracks and saves the history of all changes made to the files in a Git project. It saves this data in a directory called .git. So we have to, whenever you want to create a local git repository, then we have to issue a command called git init. When you say git init is a command, I will show you in a moment. Then automatically that command will create a directory called .git. You try to understand, if you remember, any directory in Linux, if are in Windows also, if it having dot in the beginning, that means it is a hidden directory. That directory cannot be viewed. If you want to view, you can view it with in Windows. You have to show all hidden files. You can select that option. In Linux, you have to say ls space hyphen a. When you say ls hyphen, only ls you say, you won't able to see this directory. But when you say ls space hyphen a, then it will show all the hidden files. We'll see those all these things, whatever I'm talking now. I will repeat them practically while we're doing. I will repeat them all of them, also known as repository folder. So in this folder, it will have multiple files, multiple folders will be there. And this .git, whatever files inside inside this .git folder, those folders will track all the changes, all the changes. So all the versioning, everything it will take care. I will show you once I create what it has created, what folders it has created, what it contains, everything we'll see. And Git also store the information, like for example, now Git is your local repository. Now I want to move, one of the developer want to move his code to the central repository, nothing but the GitHub, the central repository. So we should have a central repository, right? So that everyone can move their code from the local machine to the central repository, right? So to move to central repository, our local Git should understand where that GitHub repository exists. Okay, this developer want to move his code, but where it has to be moved? Where is the central repository? What is its URL? Those details you have to give to the Git. Then Git will can move it. So that information stored again inside the .git folder. In .git folder, there is a file called config file. In that config file, automatically, not automatically, we have to give a command. We have to give a command. Using that command, we can link up with our local Git repository to the central GitHub repository, right? And also, before the developer moved that code to the central repository, the developer has to provide his information. He has to provide his information, like who is he, okay, what is the email ID. That details he has to provide initially only one time. Once he provide that details, then there onwards, Git will the local repository will take care. So whenever the code is moved to the central repository also, in the central repository, this person's email ID name will be shown on the central repository as well. So this way, every developer, first time when he moving the code to the central repository, he has to give his email ID and username. That we will see practically all those things. Git uses a version control system to track all changes made to the project and saves them in the repository. Okay, it will track everything. Okay, users can then delete or copy existing repositories to or create new ones for ongoing projects. So if you want to delete the repository, you can delete it, no problem. Or you want to create a new one, also you can create it. That also we'll see. And then what is version control system? What is version control system? Version control system, and why should you care? Version control is a system that records changes to a file or set of files over time so that you can recall specific versions later, right? The same thing we did, if you remember, in S3 also. S3 also we tried the same thing. We changed some files and index files, and we changed some content in that. So if you want the older version, you can select the older version. You can open that URL. Similar way, similar fashion, we can do it here. If you are a graphic or web designer and want to keep every version of an image or layout which you would most certainly want to, a version control system is very wise thing to use. So even Not only developers, even a graphic designer also go with, you can use Git and GitHub. Why? Because you will be changing the designing multiple times, and you cannot maintain. See, he did 10 times, 20 times, 30 times changes he did, right? Multiple times he's changing the images. And for that, what he will do, if you don't use Git, then what he has to do, he has to say, first he change, you will say change 1, change 2, change 3, like that. He is to maintain 20 different changes himself manually. But instead, if you use Git now, then Git automatically do that job. Git automatically do that job. And this designer, if he wants some change number 7th one, he can simply pick that change number 7th one. So automatically Git will give that particular version. So he no need to maintain anything. Git will take care. It allows you to revert selected files back to previous state. Revert the entire project back to previous state. That means some changes you did, and those changes you want to revert back, you can do it. Compare changes over time. See who last modified something that might be causing a problem. Right? Somebody in development, somebody had some developer having some issue, did some code, uh, code changes he did, but because of that some issues coming up. Then we can roll back those changes. We can remove those changes. Who introduced an issue and when and more. So, and at the same time we can also track because of whose code the project is not working, because of whose change the project is not working. Thus everything can be tracked very easily. But if you don't use Git now, then tracking these things manually is very difficult. It's not manageable. Using a VCS, version control system, is also generally means that if you screw things up or lost files, you can easily recover. Suppose what happens, assume real time, I tell you what happens when developers, normally they will, every release will be, every sprint there will be one small release. So suddenly the one of the release having some, will be having some issues suddenly. So if that issue is small issue, then they can immediately fix it and they will redeploy the application in the production. But sometimes if the issue is very big, then they can simply deploy the previous version. So they can easily get the previous version and they can deploy the previous version. And the current version, they can take some more time and they can fix it and they can release it later on. So switching to previous version is very easy if you are using Git. And if you remember, this guy is the same guy who has developed the Linux operating system. He also developed the same, he is the same person who developed Git, created by Linus Torvalds, April 2005. Replacement for Bitkeeper to manage Linux kernel changes. A command line version control program. So it's a command line control program. Of course, it having GUI based also, but most of the time we use command line only. Uses checksums to ensure data integrity. So they use every change, for every file, every change, multiple versions, they use some checksums. This checksum is a lengthy alpha numeric value. Okay, basing on that they will check, make the data integrity. So if data is corrupted or not, or if you download something from the internet, some companies maintain checksums also. So if checksums are not matching, means it is corrupted or somebody modified it and they kept it on the online. So it is related to security. It is related to security. See, you can download some software from Microsoft as well. At the same time, Microsoft shows a SHA, they will say SHA, SHA, and a number they will give. If the number matches, then you can trust it. But some third party websites also share the same software, but they may mention SHA, that checksum, or they may not. In that case, you cannot trust them. The checksums should be matched. So that they use checksums to ensure data integrity. Internally it uses checksums. So that means it made it having more security. Distributed version control like Bitkeeper, it is a distributed version control. What is distributed version control, we will see in a moment. And cross platform, including Windows. You can use Git on Windows and Linux and Mac OS as well. It's a open source and it's free. Like Linux, it's open source and free. So most popular language used with Git. So all these languages are using Git for their projects. Okay, for their projects they are using Git. And here distributed version control. If you try to understand what is distributed version control, if you see traditional one, the traditional one does no, it does not have no central server. In traditional, if you see this one, there is no central server concept. But if you say distributed one, it having it's a it having a central server, and every client will have its own repo or repository. Every client will have its own repo. But in traditional, only the server, the central repository, will have its own central repository. But every user who are connecting to that server will not have his own repo. If he has in his own repo, he can keep the changes in his repo, and whenever you want to move the changes to the central repository, he can do it. But suppose if he has to move immediately to the in traditional, he has to move his code immediately to the central repository. But whereas in distributed, he no need to move immediately to the central repository. He can keep the changes in his repo, local repo. He can even here you see, if anything happens on the client server, then the hard disk crashes. But here it's not like that. Still the data will be available in the in local repository. You can fetch it back whenever you want. Even there is any internet problem here in this traditional system, if any internet problem happens while data is transferred to the central repo, then he may lose his he may lose his changes, code changes. But in distributed system, even the network interrupts, no problem, he can again resend the code to the central repository, because these changes are available in his in local repo. So simple thing you should understand that in traditional, the central repository only having the repository, whereas in distributed, every client having their own repo. We call them as not central repository, but we call them as local repository. Okay, we'll see that practically. So how to download Git? Hopefully you might have already downloaded this software. If you remember, when we connected to Linux machine, I told you we have another option. So if you have not done, if you have not deployed, then no problem. You can simply go to Git download. Say Git download. You see Git download. So here when you say Git download, you click on it, and we have Mac OS, Windows, Linux. If you are working on Windows, you can download here for Windows. But today we are not working on Windows. We will work real time. In real time, how we work, that way we go with it. Now we won't work on Windows. We work on Linux. So what we do today, we will create a server, a Linux server. In that we will install. If Git is not there already, we will install a Git, and then from there we try to create a local repository. And if you remember, it's the same concept. I'm repeating the same concept. That is the same concept here. It's a local Git. So every developer will have his own local Git, local repository, and he can move his data to the central repository. It's nothing but GitHub. And on last session, I shown you how to create a GitHub repository, GitHub account. Hopefully I believe you have created it. If not, please sign up and create a GitHub account. Once you create a GitHub account, then today we'll see how to create a repository, central repository on the GitHub. Today we'll see how to create a repository on the GitHub, and then also we'll see how to create a GitHub local repository, Git local repository on your local machine, and we'll see how to connect these two. Okay, let's do it. So few more things I have to explain, that I will explain while creating the instance on the cloud. Let's go to our instances. Let's create one instance here. We have some concepts in Git like staging. Staging is a concept you should understand, and then local repository. We'll see what is staging, what is working directory. These things I will explain in a moment. Let's create a server, or you can think it as a server one. Okay, server one. Let's take a Ubuntu. Right, everything is same. We want two instances. uh, okay, the other instance I will create sometime later. But as of now, let's start with one instance, launch instance. And while creating, please observe where you are creating. Okay, you delete your resources once you use them. Don't uh, be careful. Okay, otherwise bills will be generated. The bills not will not be more, but still why to pay extra? We should be little care. So it is running now. SSH client, copy this example, and what you have to do, go to downloads, show more options. Here we have git, open git bash. Here the same thing, right? No difference. Paste, type yes here. Here what I will do, sudo -i, and let me change the IP address. I will say host name. Let's think he is a developer one. Developer one. This developer is developing some code on his machine. Right now, exec bash. So he's developer one now. Now this developer one will write some code. He do a lot of things, and he want to move the code to the central repository. But you know, our central repository we opened on the day. Just say github.com. Okay, this is a new account. So if you don't have an account, then what you have to do on the day I've shown you. Okay, so for that what you have to do, one moment please. If you say at GitHub, you see you will get a sign up option. Okay, you please follow the steps. It is very easy. Just follow the, okay, by following the sign up steps you create a account here. Okay, if you already created, then you will get this dashboard. This is the dashboard. Now you say it's saying create your first project. Ready to start building? Create a repository for a new idea or bring over an existing repository to keep contributing to it. So how to bring a repository, that we will see in coming session. But as of now, how to create a repository. So first of all, let's try to understand the flow. What you will do, first of all, we have to do step, install git. Install git. So when you install git, then what you have to do next, create a create a working directory. Working directory, or you can say the working tree also. Create a working directory or tree. Okay, or I do one thing. Okay, install git, create a working directory tree. Why we have to create a working directory? See, remember, in real time what happens once a developer, how he starts his development. What you do, if the code is fresh, if the code is just starting from scratch, for example, then what he will do, he will on his laptop, he will go to D drive or C drive. There he will create a folder first time. In that folder only he will start developing the code. He will, in that, this first scenario one. This is scenario one. If the development started started from scratch, spelling correct, Thank you. So this scenario one. So your developer do what? So remember, as a GitHub, we don't have much job to do here actually, but we should understand these steps. A developer will do below steps. First step, he will, if Java Git is there, he will install. Then he will create the working directory, right? Then we call it as working directory or working tree. Then next, what he'll do? Once he install Git, then what he has to do? Go to the working directory and make it a local repository by running the below command, that is, see git having some commands. We will be learning many commands. Okay, one of them is in first command is git init. When you run git init, then git then what it will do? Git init will create. So who are confusing, don't confuse. It's very easy. Okay, this is done by the developer. We won't do this. DevOps engineer will not do this. This will be done by the developer. Okay, so if you have some knowledge about it, you will have some extra edge. That's the only purpose of understanding these things. You should understand the complete link. Why we learning, what is the link between where the developer ends and from where we start using the git and github, that you should understand. So now git init will create a .git folder. Okay, so now because you ran this git init inside the working directory, now the working directory, now now the working directory is is will co- will is can be called as local repository. Okay, now local repository can connect to the central repository, nothing but your GitHub. So actually there are three stages. Let me try to explain those three stages. First stage is your working tree or working directory. We'll see. It's called working directory or tree. And then so developer will create all his files and folders, all his whatever projects he create inside his working directory will be tracked automatically when, see, now onwards, now onwards, Git will start tracking the files and folders, which are created and modified by the developer. So the Git will start tracking the files and folders only if you run the git init command. Only then it will starting tracking. Assume assume for some time you created some files and folders, but you have not ran this command git init. Then git init cannot track them. So git init will track only the files and folders which you created after running this command. Before whatever you did, that it will not track. Okay, so in the working directory, user will create his files and folders. Okay, and then assume you have installed git init already installed. Then these files, now since you have installed git repository, then your files and folders should be moved to the, because here what we are, our plan is what, end of the day our files and folders should be moved to the central repository. But who will communicate with the central repository? The developer cannot directly communicate with the central repository. Actually the request has to go through the local repository. So to go the the communication should go to the local repository means all the files, all the files and folders created in this working directory has to be moved to the local repository. Okay, so for that it's called local repository. So how a local repository created? Just by running the git init. It's a local repository. And in between local repository and your working directory, we have one more stage. One more stage, that is, we call it a staging. So what is that? So before you decided to move it to local repository, you can move it to staging. So that means if your decision changes, suppose no, I don't want to, I did the changes, I am moving to staging. That means it is ready to move to the local repository like that. So I'll tell you. So now whatever files folders you created, that has to be moved to staging first. From staging, it has to move to the local repository. From local repository, we have to move to the central repository. This is your central repository is nothing but your GitHub. Central repository is nothing but your GitHub. Central repository. Okay, it is nothing but your GitHub. It can be GitHub or GitLab or your Bitbucket. Right. So this person, this person cannot directly. Where is that curve here? Anyway, this person cannot directly. Sorry, directly cannot move to the central repository. He cannot move. He cannot move it. This he cannot be done. First of all, these files, whatever he worked on, the developer, whatever change he worked on, those files has to be moved to your staging. You have to move to the staging first. Okay. Once you move to staging, what happens in the staging? The files are in staging. That files you can move to local repository. You can move to local repository. Okay, if in staging you can decide whether the changes are fine or not, if the changes are enough or not. If the changes are not, more changes are required, then you can unstage them, you can roll back, you can roll back the changes, and you can again modify it, again you can move to staging again. Those front and back you can move the changes, and then you can, once you decided, then you have to move to the local repository. When you move your local repository, then no, whatever you move the changes, then whenever you move to the local repository, automatically the local repository will create a id. We call it as a commit id. Okay, so assume a commit id is already created. So when you move to local repository, only then a id will be separate id, unique id will be generated. But you decide that after moving to local repository, you have not moved it to central repository. At local repository is thought that okay, these changes are not correct, I have to do some more changes. Then what happens? The same files you will change here again. When you already the files which are moved to local repository, the same files you are changing now. Now when you do some changes, automatically the changes are local. They are not part of local repository, they are just in the working directory. Again you have to move to the staging, again you have to move them. Again from here you have to move them. Again when you move for the same changes, but you are created one more commit id. So before you move to local repository, multiple changes whatever you do, you better do at this staging place only. If you doing it, you moving to local repository and again you changing again and you moving to local repository, then unnecessarily lot of the git will create lot of ids, unique ids. So identify ids are nothing but identification. It's nothing but your versioning id, you can say. You can say it as a versioning number, like S3 bucket used to do, right? Id will be created, a unique id will be created. So Why to create unnecessarily multiple commit IDs when you are working again and again on the same file? Better you do it whatever changes you want on the staging itself. Once you did all the changes when you are fine, then you move there. But one or two times changing, even though they are in the local repository, if you're doing one or two times, no problem. Okay, you can again, suppose, assume I tell you one scenario. You have not moved your file that changes to your Git repository, but you are doing multiple changes in the when they are in the local repository, and unnecessarily commit IDs are generated. Again, in Git we have some commands, so like git reset. So there, what you can do is you can merge, you can remove all those extra commits, and you can give a one single new commit id, and so that you can remove the already created commit ids. That way also we can do that, we will see practically. Okay, but as of now, please try to understand, this developer is a developer. Okay, this developer actually working and moving his code. He will create a, he will create a working directory. One directory will create, and then he will do all the changes. Then he will move to staging. From staging, he, he can move it to local repository, and then to the, and then finally to the central repository. Once the central, it has moved to central repository, what the central repository contains? It will contain the commit id as well as the username and his email id. Those details already the local repository having. The same details also move to the, push it to the central repository. Now in the central repository, we can clearly see the commit ID generated by the Git here on the local repository. The same ID will be moved here, and who created at what time, everything will be available on GitHub as well. Okay, this is one scenario. This is a one scenario. And if you go with the second scenario, okay, if you take the second scenario, so development, if the development has already started, started scratch, started from scratch, for example. Now what happens? Now a developer two, here a developer two joined just now in the company. He will do what steps? This guy, what he will do? Okay, the product is already there. Nice. Then the manager will assign him some tasks. You'll say our project is here. Now in the front end, you please add these buttons and this list box. These things you do. That way, the lead, the tech lead of the team will assign a job task to the developer two. And developer two has just joined. He does not have any code, but the project is running from last 1 year. Assume that what this person will do is simply, what he will do, first of all he also install git. First of all he also has to install git. Okay, and then simply what he will do, right? You know already GitHub contains all the code ready made here. All code is there here. Then the developer 2 simply gets all the code from here, all the code from here, and he will get it, and he will download something like download to his local machine. You will download the code whatever is there to our local machine. So how we can do it? There we have a command called clone. Some command called git clone. Yeah, git code and your GitHub GitHub repository URL. This path you have to give. That's it. The URL how you get? Very simple. I tell you. Okay, that GitHub repository URL. Yes, this repository will be given by one of the developer. The developer team lead will give him, say, he will say that we have a repository. This is a URL. Then as a developer, you should know how to clone it. You will clone it. Simply will say git clone and the URL. That's it. Then automatically, what will say? One step he has to do is he has to choose the location where to download the existing code. Okay. Example, C drive or D drive, no problem. Wherever area you want to download, then the GitHub, the complete folder, project folder will be downloaded. Okay, once it is downloaded, then that's it. Automatically when you download it, automatically in the download, the .git folder also will come. You no need to run git in it. You no need to run git in it. When you download, automatically .git will be there inside it, and it will start tracking whatever changes the developer 2 is doing. Now all changes will be tracked by git. Got it? Please let me know if you have any questions till now. Please, if you have any questions, let ask. No problem, don't hesitate. Okay, if you don't have questions now, no problem. Today we're practicing. You note down the queries. If you have any in mind, then let me know tomorrow morning. So that is there is another scenario now. Scenario 3 now. Scenario 2, scenario 3 now. If you understand the theory, practicals are very easy. First of all, you should understand what are the use cases. Now scenario 3 now. If the if a developer, if a developer, if developer 1 did some code changes, then developer 2 also has to get those changes onto his local repository. It's very easy, but try to understand. For example, the scenario one is very first time when when developer development starts, everybody will do the same steps. But in scenario two, right, developer somebody joined, then you can call git clone and everything you will get it. That's the scenario two. And scenario three, a developer one did some code changes. Okay, and then developer two also, developer two are all the developers also has to get those changes into his local repository. Why? Because you see, in development, it's always, it's not good practice, it's a good practice. I should not say good practice, it is mandatory, it's a regular thing they have to do. What is the regular thing they have to do? Because every day, assume there are 100 developers are working every day on the project. As you know, every day developers are writing the code changes, doing some code changes, and they're moving the code to the central repository. All right, and when they're moving the code to a central repository, next day, next day they come back to office, what they have to do, first step what they have to do, they should not start the code immediately, because they don't know the, suppose you opened a file xyz.com file, some file you opened, for example, that file may be already modified by some other developer, previous day, and this person next day came and started working on xyz, and he moved the code to central repository. If you do that way, what happens, the whatever changes done by the previous developer will be overwritten. Suppose assume xyz initially having 10 lines of code, and next day another developer added 5 lines of code. Now total 15 lines of code. Okay. Next day the third person developer is having the previous code file which having only 10 files of code, 10 lines of code. But the 5 lines of code, yeah, he doesn't have. But that 15 lines of latest code is available on the central repository. Then the developer, any developer, every day their job is, whenever they come to office, they have to get the latest code from the central repository. Only then they have to start the development. If they blindly they will start working on the same file, then on 10 lines he will write more 6 lines of code, and he will move that files from your local repository to central repository. Then the 5 lines which are already done by the previous developer will be completely overwritten on top of it. This way, when their code, everybody code moved, when the testing do, then only then the other developer finds that, oh my god, my code has been replaced by other developer. So to avoid such situations, every developer must follow some discipline. They have to follow. If they forget it, then that is big headache. So these scenarios all are dealing with the developer point of view only. So as a DevOps engineers, we need to worry these things. Okay. So for that purpose, every day the person has to do what? Git pull. He should run a command called git pull. Correct, correct. So these people, what they will, whenever they want to push the code into the repository, they should say git push. And here the path, like now, origin. I will explain this. I will not explain now, but keep it a git push. The remaining I will explain in a moment. So you have to, whenever you want to move the code from the local repository to central repository, you should say git push. And whenever you want the latest code, you have to say git pull. You will see these scenarios in a moment. Okay, now our server is already running from long time. It already expired or what? Ls, wow, it's not expired. Nice. Now if you see whether git is already there, how can we check? Git hyphen hyphen version. So a version is already available, no need to install here, no need to install anything here. On Ubuntu, I've selected Ubuntu. You also try with Ubuntu, practice with Ubuntu. Okay, git version. Okay, now next, developer one. First scenario, if you take first scenario, is the development is developing from scratch. Then what he has to do? He has to do, first of all, you have to create a directory. As this part, create a working directory. Any name you can give. For example, assume I am working for a project called mkdir fedex. Fedex is my project name. Assume one thing you should remember: the developer can give any name, no problem. But end of the day, the files whatever having inside the fedex has to go to the central repository or has to come from the central repository to this folder. The folder name can be anything. Fedex, enter. Ls now. We have fedex now. Get inside the fedex. Ls again. Now what I have to do? I want to make this. I have to run command git init. When you run git init, only then the tracking will be started. Okay. Now we'll say git init. It's saying that by default, git, we don't know what is branches are. So it's saying master is the name for the initial branch. What is branch? Those things we'll understand tomorrow. But as of now, try to understand. It created a branch. By default name is master branch. So normally in companies, we can have master branch, we can have main branch. Branch name can be anything. You can change it. So that is what it is saying. By default, it has created a branch, master branch, as the name for the initial branch. This default branch name is subject to change. So by default, Git providing this name. In future, the Git may change this name to some other name. So don't depend on this branch name. Okay. To configure the initial branch name to use in all your new repositories, which will suppress this warning call. So if you call this, then it will suppress this message. Names commonly chosen instead of master are main, trunk, and development. So many you can give any name, no problem. The just created branch can be removed via this command git branch hyphen m and branch. This can be removed, but as of now it's okay. Now you see ls hyphen a. When you say ls hyphen a, you will see a folder is created dot git. Okay, that's a hidden file. If you simply say ls, you can't see it. Okay, now I want to get inside this folder. Let's see what it having. So cd dot git tab, enter, and type ls. Now it contains some folders: head, branches, config file, description file, and these are all folders. So these all folders, with these folders and with these files, the Git local it will maintain the local repository. It will track all your changes. Okay. Now if you say cat config, for example, so now the config file having repository information 0, file mode is true, where false, okay, some other file name. Okay. Now that is about it. Next thing what we have to do, go to, okay, git init is done. Now onwards git will start tracking the files and folders which are created and modified by the developer. Now let's create some files. Let's see how it will track. Now come out of the .git file dot ls. Now as of now we don't have any files. We don't have any files here. All right, what I will do, I will create some files. How can we create files? As you know, we have command called touch. I will say file 1. Okay, I'm saying type file 1, enter. Now you say ls, you have file 1 here. Now we have a command called git status. It's a git status. It's saying that when you type git status, it's saying that on branch master, no commits yet, no commits yet. So when you do commit, the file which is here now, still it is here. So if you commit it, it has to go to local repository. But directly, you should remember that directly you cannot move them to local repository. You cannot move to local repository. You cannot do it directly. It has to go first from here only, from here to this stage, and then from here to this stage. This is the process. And from here to here, this is the correct process. Okay, but this is wrong. This way you cannot do. So first you have to move to the staging, right? First of all, here it's saying that untracked files. These files are not tracked. Still, they are not tracked with the Git. But Git saying that I am not tracking them. Remember, I am not tracking them. To track them, you use a command called git add at the file name to include in what will be committed. So to include in what will be committed, that means in you are adding this to stage. When you add it, then Git starts tracking. That means when you add it, it goes to the staging part. That means it is in staging means next in your future plan is that you want to move it to your commit section, that is nothing but your local repository. You are planning to move it to the local repository. So nothing added to commit but untracked files present. Okay, use git add to track. So first of all, okay, git status the command, okay, that you should try. Then you have two things actually, git add. You can say git add and file name. This way is one option. But if there is only one file, no problem, you can do it. Git add file one. When you say that, then the file will be moved to the staging. Okay, then our git will start tracking that file. But you assume we have in real time, you don't have one file. In real time you will have 20-30 files. Then you have option called simply you can put a dot. When you say put dot, then all files will be moved to the staging. Okay, or you can say hyphen hyphen all also you can say. Okay, so now git add file name. Okay, only only one file will be added to staging. Okay, but if you say git add dot or git add hyphen hyphen all, all files will be moved to staging. Okay, now your choice. Okay, we have three methods, your choice. Now I'll simply say git dot. I not normally I use git dot actually. Git dot. Now you say again give the command git status. Now it is saying that on branch master, no commits yet. No commits yet. Changes to be committed. So this git say this file is has to be committed. But if you want to now suppose assume you want to unstage it. That means you don't want to move to staging. You want to roll back the change. Whatever you did, you want to roll back. Then simply you can say git rm hyphen hyphen cached to unstage. If you say this, file name. Now if you say git status again, you will see what happens. Again the previous state, showing the previous state. That I have to check once. Maybe I have to check with the maybe star might work. Let's try. Let's try. Now let's try that. Normally we won't
Yeah,
do
it
that. Very rarely we do.
works,
Let's try
mother.
that. Naveen? Yes, Naveen?
Yeah, I think it will work with star also for all files.
Okay, okay. Okay, that you try. I also will try. So next again I want to add this file back to staging. Then for that I'll say simply add. Now git status is now here. Next thing, if you say git log, for example, you say fatal your current branch master does not have any commits yet, right? But if you try to commit now, I want to move it to local repository, then immediately your git your local git will ask you, who are you, what is your email id, what is your username, it will ask. So it will not allow you to commit to the local repository itself. Let's try that. So how to commit? Yes, yes, you simply say commit is a command, and here hyphen m is a message actually. What message you? So you are committing, fine. You are did some changes, but always remember, developers has to follow some discipline whenever they are moving any files to central repository. So whatever the changes doing in the local repository, the same will be moved to central repository. So for that reason, while committing itself, they have to mention in a message saying that for what purpose that file has been modified or created, what changes they have did in this. So in the commit, you have to mention clearly. Only by seeing that, whenever 1 year back also they come back, and if you see this, they can understand what they did in that version, particular version. So enter some info about the changes. That's it. This is a commit. Okay. Now, when I say the same thing, I'll try to do that. Git commit an m. I'll say new file. Say file one has been added. I'll say like this, something like this. When I say enter, it is saying that please. It's saying author identity unknown. Please tell me who you are. Okay, so we don't have that information. So now git to inform to git local repository to introduce yourself, then what to say, you have to provide your user email id and your name. So this is a command we have to use. Okay, so to set your account's default identity, okay, omit global to set the identity only in this repository. Okay, and global means if multiple developers are doing, then it can understand it's a team, and it can able to differentiate. So now I will say git global git config global user dot email. You can give any name. Your original email id is not required, but in real time what you will do, you will give your company email id, right? So I will say here something like dev1 dev1 at gmail.com, and then git config name, right? Then you say dev1. So these things you have to add. Okay, that you have to do. Enter. Now if you see, if you say for example, if you go what do you call, if you go to your hidden folder, that is .git ls, you see you have file one, okay, but ls hyphen a you have git.git here, right? If I get into git.git ls, you have config file here. So I will say cat config. That's not a triple, it will add it will add after I do commit. Okay, now what I will do, git commit hyphen m added a new file 1, enter. It's saying now master root. Okay, this is the commit id. In short showing, I will show you the bigger one. So it's, if you say git log now, you see it's complete id. It's showing only the first few digits up to 38 it is showing, but this is a commit id, complete commit id. And who did, author is developer 1, is username, and is the is gmail id. at what time it did. So this history will be saved and this comment will be here, added a new file, file 1. So this is a comment. Everything will be tracked now. Everything will be tracked now. This file is added now. Next thing is what? As per the diagram, this file is moved to local directory, local repository. Now next step is I want to move this to the GitHub. But in GitHub, I don't have any repository as of now. Then what I have to do? I have to go to GitHub. I have to create a repository. When you create a new repository, then the new repository will give you some commands. That commands will help you to connect your local repository with your central repository. Once that connection is established, then simply what you can do, you can move this file one to our central repository. So let's go to GitHub now and we'll create a repository over there and we'll come back here and we will create the connection, right? But before doing the connection, this session may expire. So what I will do, I'll simply ping google.com. So it will be running continuously without any session expiry. So when you take long time to come back to this console, then you better ping to any website. So it's continuously working in the backend. Otherwise, it will be lost your session. Now go to our repository. Now I will say you can click here, click create repository, or in the plus symbol you can say new repository. There also you can do it. Okay, let's click here new repository now. When you say create a new repository, here this is my account name, owner, I am the owner, and your repository name. I will say repository name is FedEx, or I will say FedEx project repository name I want to give. So this will be decided by your team. So because everybody has to use the same repository, because all the developers has to move their code to the same repository, right? This repository should be the final one. And here it is, you can give some description if you want. And here normally in companies, most we will use private only. We will not use public. Okay, companies mostly use private. So for this you have to pay. But public, anybody can use this repository. You can use my repository as well. I can use your repository as well if it is public, right? Then add a readme file. Normally you will have, for every product there will have a readme file. In this readme file there will have some instructions how to use your application. Normally that they will add some information over there. Okay, and then add a .git ignore. So .ignore is a special file. You see dot is there. Okay, dot means it will be a hidden file. So in this file you can mention the details like from your local repository which files you don't want to move to the central repository. Those things we'll see, but that is used for that purpose. Okay, now then choose license, that's ignore. Now click on create repository. Something went wrong. There was almost already happened elsewhere. Okay, I will change this name to March 15. We try again. Now we got a new project, that is FedEx project March 13. Now you see here, when you come down, quick setup. If you have done this kind of thing before, you can copy this. You can copy this and you can proceed further. But we'll understand what is all these things in a moment. Now, or create a new repository on the command line. On the command line, you can create a new repository. So first thing, what he is saying, git init. Yes, we already done it. Our readme file you want to add, I can add it, but I don't want readme file. Git commit, yes, I just now did git commit as well. My first file is already there on my local repository. Then it is saying if you want to change the branch to main branch, you can do it. I have currently master branch, but in this repository, in the central repository, as of now, there is no branch at all. So if you want to create a new branch with this main name, you can do it. So what I will do, I will copy this command, control C, control C, clear the screen, git log. Okay, now you see when I say git log, it is the head is it's like a in your, if you know C language, there we have pointers concept. Very if you don't know, no problem. So it's like a pointer. It's a pointer pointing to your master branch. Now I want to change the master branch to main branch. If you say git branch, I want to modify this master to main branch. When you run this command and if you run again this git log, Then this time the master will change to main branch. Now the master I have replaced with the new name main branch. That means the main branch also will be available. Same name, main branch will be available on the central repository. But as of now, the connection has been not established. As of now, the connection has not established now. So still I have to run a command. What command it is? Git remote add. Since origin is nothing but it's a variable name, or you can give any name, no problem, but standardly most of the people use origin as it is, so better we can continue the traditional. So git remote add, when you say add, then a variable, this to this variable, this path will be added. This path will be added to this variable, like assigning some value to this origin variable. So this value will be stored in your local repository. I shown you know your config file. In this config file your variable will be shown. That means, for example, here cd.git sorry cat config. When I run now, when I establish the connection now, when I run git cat config, then here that origin details will be updated here. Okay, let's try that. We have to copy this complete command, and you see, observe carefully what this link having. It's a website, GitHub website. In this is our account name, this account name, and this is our repository name dot git. It contains that information, this account name and your repository name, right? So copy this complete thing. I'm sorry, I'm inside the dot git, right? I have to come out of it. Now if you see, next what you have to do, now you can push your code, push your local code. Now the develop, now connection is established. As per the diagram, the connection is established now. Now what are the files in the local repository? Now it can be moved to your central repository. Only files which are in the local repository, not in the staging, not in the working directory. The files which are moved to staging and then to local repository, those files only you can move to central repository. The connection is established now. Now the next command is git push origin main. I'm saying when you say git push, you means upstream. Git push upstream, move to upstream to above, that means to the central repository. Correct. And here origin means origin also already holding the path here. This is a path. Your repository, central repository path is having in this or variable. And then main is nothing but where in this path, okay, but which branch you want to move this code. They in the same repository they could have multiple branches. Out of that branches, which branch you want to move, then the branch name you have to mention. I'm say copied it and then I'm pasting it. Git push. It's saying username for GitHub. What is the username? Your username will be your account name. This is the Madan DevOps 24. This is the username. Okay. I'll say Madan DevOps 2024. Enter. Now password for this. I forgot. Uh, you see, it has not filled actually. It's saying that remote support. I want to show you this actually. Remote support for password authentication was removed on the August 13, 2021. Those support has been removed now. They're saying please see this document, and what they're saying. So you have to follow as per this documentation. So what they are saying is that in short, they don't want us to use password. So use the username, no problem. But the password, you should not use your password, but you have to use a separate new ID that is called token ID. You create a token and use the token to give as a password. So how can we create a token? So since the password is okay, but now they found it's not proper way of connecting, it's not safe they're thinking. So that's the reason they are advising us to create a token. So how can we create a token? Simply on the right side, click on this icon. We have settings here. Okay, right click on the settings, open this new window, or else just duplicate. I don't want to change this page. You know? That is the reason I'm just duplicating this page. Go here, click on settings. Just scroll down. We have developer settings. Click on developer settings. We have personal access tokens. Click on that. We have two things, but don't take the fine grained tokens. Take the tokens classic. Click on tokens classic and generate new token. Here also select, don't select the beta, select the generate new token classic. Click on that. It doesn't password. Now, I authenticated. Now it's saying new personal access token classic. Personal access token classic function likes ordinary OAuth access tokens. They can be used instead of password for Git over HTTPS, or can be used to authenticate to the APA over basic authentication. So programmatically also you can use this token value. Okay, and what name you have to give for this token. I'll say FedEx project token. Something I will say. This token you can give the expiration. How many days you want to keep this token? For 30 days. Okay, I want to keep it for 30 days. So it's showing that on April 12th it will be expired. Then after, what you want to select? Okay, token will be provided to you, and using this token, what the services you want to use. I will select all of them. I may use all of the services. Let me select all of the services. So as required, you can select your services. Now generate token. Now this is a token generated. Okay, you just copy it, because you won't be able to see it later. Okay, if you want to say, if you missed it, no problem, you can create a new token. You can create a new token always, no problem. So for that, the token, for example, okay, this token I have to provide. Next, what I will do, let me try that again. Go to our console, click up arrow and type enter again. This time it will ask again the username, this time password. So I will paste the token. Now see, it has been authenticated properly. It's saying writing objects. Objects nothing but your files, whatever files, folders we created are updated now. Now to HTTP to this repository, it has updated. It's saying that, and branch created is main branch. Okay, let's check that. Our file should be, now as per this diagram, our file should be uploaded to our central repository. Okay, let's try that. Check that. This is the main page, right? Just refresh it. Just refresh it. Now you see our file one is here. Okay, and here you see the commit id 6218c38. So the same commit id 6218, right? 6218, you see 6218, the same commit id, and you would committed it developer one with the gmail id, this one. So when you click on that, when you click on this commit id, so you will see details. So somebody, a person with the same username having this name actually, because it's a public repository, right? So somebody's gmail id is matching. So while you practicing, no, you give some unique email id, okay, or your original email id also fine, no problem. So this person has uploaded, okay, this file, and again click on the branch name, main branch name, click on the main branch name, you will be back. Now what this file contains, added a new file, file one, this is a comment, okay, 14 minutes ago. How many commits I have done till now? One commit. So how many commits done by whom, everything will be shown here. So whatever you do on your local repository, it's a replica, that's all. Your GitHub center is a replica. The same thing will be come here. So that a, so that a new developer, if you want this, assume this is a project, here it contains some hundreds of files, for example, then you can simply clone these files. You can go to your code, here you can click this path, you can copy this and you can clone. It's a clone option. This clone things we will see tomorrow thoroughly, but as of now, let's try do a small change. For example, this file, it does not contain any content, it doesn't have any content. Let me do some changes. I want to add some changes to this file. So now what I will do, ls, we have this file one, cat file, nothing is there. Now I want to edit some content here. File one, this is the first change done in this file by developer dev one, something like that, right? Enter control c, and then git status, if you see, it's in, it's not in staging now, we have to move it to staging now. So you'll say git add hyphen all you can hyphen all you can say. It's done. Now git status, if you see it's in green color, then you say git commit. Okay, then file file 1 has been modified, something like that. Then it is done. Now if you see git log, you see another id will be generated. But every commit id will be generated. This is a previous one. Yeah, this is a new previous version. This is a current version. Who did this person did? What is the comment? First file has been modified. Here it maintains the timestamp here. It also it maintains timestamp here. Right? This way commits will be created whenever IDs will be created whenever you do a commit. Now I have to push it. Now simply if you say git push, just say git push. One time is enough. Hyphen u, origin, those things you can do it. Origin and main branch you can, but next time onwards it will remember those things. Now if you say username is your token ID. So token ID you have to save. But in real time we won't use this one. Now it's uploaded now. Now when you go to our central repository, now click on the main, click on the repository name on top, you are on the main and you see file has been modified 1 minute ago. 1 minute ago and two commits, it's two commits now. Now when you click the file content, you see this is the first change done in this file by developer one, dev one. So this is a simple example I'm showing. Okay, but tomorrow the same thing we will see the other scenarios which we discussed today. So when a new when developer 2 joins, then how we can clone the code. Okay, and moreover actually in real time we won't provide see if you want to deploy multiple times in a day, then every time we will not give username and password. There's another way, but for that it requires some 15 minutes time. I will not continue, I will stop here. You practice till now. Okay, if you have any questions, please ask me now, or otherwise we can discuss tomorrow as well. I'm waiting. If you have any queries, I will wait for some time. Please, if you have any questions, ask me. Okay, if there are no questions, then thank you for your time. Have a good day and take care. Thank you. Bye.